welcome to this edition of the Fabric Spotlight series. This is the platform where we invite thought leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators, and industry luminaries to come share their perspectives and insights. And today, I have the privilege of turning the spotlight on an individual who combines all of these different qualities. And I'd like to welcome and introduce Pankaj Patel. Pankaj was the Executive Vice President and Chief Development Officer of Cisco Systems, where he reported to the CEO, first the legendary John Chambers and subsequently Chuck Robbins, heading up the company's $38 billion product and solutions portfolio. In this capacity, he was the business and technology leader for the company's routing, switching, collaboration, security, video, and data center, as well as cloud portfolio, among several others. And more recently, he has joined the Fabric as an advisor, and in addition to being a mentor, a venture partner, as well as a board member at several other startups and companies. Personally, I have known Pankaj professionally for a few years and have had the privilege of working in his leadership organization for some time as well. And while the Silicon Valley has been the epicenter of Pankaj's career, the organizations that he led and the impact and sphere of his influence have been truly global in nature. He's also a person who is very comfortable straddling big corporations as well as small startups, and he manages to make it look easy, and that's not easy at all. And with that small introduction, Pankaj, I'd like to welcome you, and maybe we get started on this. We could, given your broad experience, cover it in two ways. We could look at big companies that scale and then come down to startups and see how they work in the ecosystem. So let's kick things off by, first of all, looking at what you're doing during your post-Cisco retirement days. I see you neither tired nor retired. And so how is post-Cisco life treating you, and how do you maintain this energy and pace?
Well, thank you, first of all, Shashi. I appreciate a very kind introduction. It's been a year, 8 months, and about 6 days, but who's counting? It's exciting and it's fun. I have to say, my blood pressure is down by 20 points. I feel pretty healthy and really having a time of my life. I am pretty well immersed in the startup community and the startup world. I am helping incubate some companies, as well as I'm advising, I'm investing, and I'm on board of directors of about half a dozen companies. So it's a lot of fun working with young entrepreneurs who have brilliant ideas, and they want to climb Mount Everest every single day. And so it's fun working with them.
So clearly this lifestyle is agreeing with you, but you actually made a pretty significant switch in terms of leading an organization of over 26,000 engineers for whom you are the technology and spiritual leader at Cisco, to now advising and mentoring startups. In a way, it's like the captain of a battleship now having to go and mentor boat captains and tugboat captains. So how is this context switching working for you? How do you make that switch happen?
Actually, that's a great question, Shashi. That context switching is not as easy as people would think that it is. As you said, when you're managing a global diverse group of, at one point in time, there were 29,000+ people, and engineers, product marketeers, and the product management folks, along with a bunch of operations people. You wake up the very next day, and And I used to, by the way, get up at 4:45 every day when I worked at Cisco for 20 years. And so I got up the very first day after that at 6:30. So there was a sleep-in time. And, and I didn't have access to Cisco email, rightfully so, or the voicemail, so completely empty. And it's a surreal experience, right? No voicemails, no cap calls. I used to get on an average about a few hundred emails a day. From that, only few emails on Gmail from my friends. It's like, I'm done in 5 minutes responding to them. Like, what do I do? And I was not very active on social media like WhatsApp or whatnot. So it's a pretty surreal experience. And so and I'm not the type that I could just simply take time off. My boys have always teased me that, Dad, you need to learn how to relax and you need to take a vacation and develop a hobby. And I failed at all of that. And, so this has been really building up after I left Cisco to get to meet with a lot of brilliant people who want to change the world in many ways, and slowly but surely get into the swing of things. And it has taken time. But now I feel I won't have it any other way.
That's a wonderful transformation itself to watch for somebody who's probably looked at you in an intense high visibility role at Cisco, and now you're kind of enjoying your job, but it doesn't seem necessarily like a job to you. So it's a balance that you have actually begun, and I'm hoping that reflects onto people that you mentor as well. Absolutely. In terms of really being able to do the work you enjoy and enjoy the work you do. Coming back to Cisco, for example, it is no small company, and as an organization, for people that are looking at you as a poster child for somebody who scaled the innovation engine, how do you go about sort of doing that? Because on one hand, it has a problem of plenty. Most people think Cisco has a ton of resources to put at any problem. While this may be true, it also has a lot more priorities and conflicts and management issues, potential M&A. So how do you sort of bring alignment of goals to this 29,000 community that you talked about, or how do you build purpose for such organizations?
Cisco is an incredible company. I have immense respect for the company. I am who I am because of what that company gave me as an opportunity to do the things that I wanted to do in my life. I owe a lot of the credit, I would give a lot of credit rather, for what you just asked, to incredible culture that company developed over the years and drove pretty much deep down into the ranks, and to incredible talent that the company has. Cisco always believed in its big vision. And by the way, the vision that they set forth a few decades ago has remained intact. And nobody thought that this is something which will survive for so long. Companies end up in modifying and changing the vision. But vision has served the company so well and the industry so well. One of the things that Cisco has done, among many things, which is just absolutely great, is to develop a strategy and to refine that strategy over a period of time. And what we all as leaders have done in part is to get our teams aligned to the vision and strategy for the company, right? And you have to go deep into the organization to do that. So you align your team on strategy, on vision, and then if you also align them and if you drive the culture deeply into the company, because as you said, the company is all over the globe, and it's pretty diverse. And Cisco acquired so many companies in its history, so which brings in different cultures, subcultures, which enriches your culture, but at the same time, you have to be true to your culture. So once again, I give a lot of credit to the culture and incredible talent that the company has.
And culture in some ways is a function of leadership and the tone that the leadership sets. I remember the badges that we used to have with the vision, strategy, execution elements in them that all of us used to carry. But just coming back to the leadership aspects, it is said that a true leader is one, and he's measured based on the caliber of leadership he leaves behind. And if I look at you, the kind of leadership you created, many of them are now CEOs at publicly traded companies doing extremely well. So to build this culture and leadership, what are the kind of traits that you're looking for? How do you groom such people in the organization?
So there are many, but few examples I can give you is, to me, a leader has to be pretty passionate about innovations and driving the innovation culture. That leader should also be a talent magnet. Should be able to attract the best and the brightest in the industry. And at the same time, the leader has to be able to inspire and motivate the talent that he or she hired, and also make a commitment to empower them as they take the new jobs. I also look for resiliency in the leaders. And this is something that John Chambers taught us very well, because as you know, Cisco has gone through pretty important cycles in its history, and actually came out as a winner every single time.
Stronger each time.
Stronger each time, actually. And one of the last one was in 2008, 2009. And if we did not have the leaders who were resilient, I don't believe that the company would be where it is, right? So that is so critical, so important. And then, to me, the last but not the least is the character in a successful leader. And I would quote a legendary UCLA coach, John Wooden. He said this very succinctly, that successful leadership is not about whether you are soft or tough, whether you are sensitive or assertive. It's about a set of attributes that a person possesses, and one of the most important one is the character. And I truly believe in that. I believe that character is the moral compass that we all carry for the rest of our lives, right? And he also believed that, he said, it's your efforts and your hard work which will get you to the top, but it's your character which will keep you there. And I believe that. I think it is. I have seen that in successful leaders in my life, and I believe in that pretty strongly.
And that's a great quote, and I've probably seen this firsthand in action in the organizations that you have led with people of high integrity, because when everybody is technologically good, you need those skills of integrity, character, which are hardened over a period of time.
Absolutely.
To really let that leadership trait rise to the fore. I wanted to touch upon something you mentioned about Cisco going through maybe some of these inflection points, coming out stronger each time. That's a very tough thing to do in an industry that is as dynamic as we are in, where disruption cycles are becoming more and more frequent. And yet, this company, for example, has been a leader, number one or number two, for over 2 decades in almost all of the things that it ventured into. How do you drive such innovation in the company organically? You could look at M&A as one way to bring in new ideas, new technologies. But in terms of organically doing this across the company, what's the formula to make that happen?
Well, they have, Cisco has done, I sound like as if they have, but the company has done an incredible job. I mean, John and now Chuck have been pretty generous with the R&D spend that the company has. I mean, when I was there, we're spending roughly about $6 billion every year. That's a lot of money. And so that gives you a lot of ability to create a lot of organic innovations. One of the things that Cisco really pushed pretty hard was on market transitions. And John used to say, you want ability to anticipate and focus on market transitions. I think the second thing which really brought uniqueness to the way we would drive the innovations was it's a very customer success focused company. It taught us all to listen to customers very intently. And John used to say that there's only one Steve Jobs in the world, right? Who can tell its consumers that I know better than you do, I know what you would need, and here it is, right? For most of the companies, it's the customers.
They are the true north.
They are the true north. They provide tremendous input. And I think that has been one of the major secrets of Cisco's success. And the other thing that I have to admire about is Cisco's M&A philosophy, right? I mean, when you look back in 90s and look at a bunch of the competitors and even the competitors later on, a lot of them vanished, and the ones who were left behind are much weaker than they were, right? And they had that opportunity, and they didn't. One of the things Cisco did was to acquire the companies for right reasons, right? I'm not saying that they did everything perfect, but they learned. They would miss every once in a while, but they would pick up and learn. And and by the way, that's not easy to sell to your engineering team, to say why you're going to acquire a company, why you're going to make some people rich, right? And you have to really explain to them that as you acquire them, you don't want to leave a lot of white space in where you operate, number one. Number two, you want to increase profitable top line. And as long as you are increasing the shareholder equity, including your own, enriching your own pocketbooks, how can you go wrong?
That's a wonderful way of looking at things. And in a way, what you talked about, customer centricity, what I've seen missing in some of the other organizations is most people that are customer centric usually end up being the sales or SE folks. Within engineering, they get involved when there is an issue, but they lack the holistic view of how it works in a customer environment. And what I saw as different in Cisco is the kind of exposure that engineers get into customer deployments, post sales, and that gives them a way to align and brings that centricity DNA, which I think is very important. And some of the people that you acquired as well, they were marveling at the way Cisco brings that culture out. So, kudos to you, John, and the high caliber leadership team that Cisco had and continues to have in many ways. So, Pankaj, we covered a lot of ground on Cisco and how you scale big companies. We have more ground to cover, and we'll touch a little bit about startups in the next episode. Be sure to join us.
Thank you.